This week we introduce you to a little girl who is eager to make big strides. At 7 years old, she is fully aware that one's circumstances can change within a split second. And based on her short but enthralling history, her story will inspire you. Just before Clarendon Brown visits with this family, we do encourage adult supervision.
Inspired Jamaica is brought to you by Guardian Life, looking after life.
My name is Moesha Stewart.
Upon arrival at her home in McCoy, a small district in Ainon town at the border of Clarendon and Santan, we were greeted by her father, Robert Stewart, also called Roy, who hustled us inside the privacy of one of the 2 bedrooms of the 3-room house they occupy. As it turns out, Mr. Stewart is not only man a yard, he is a father who is mothering Moesha, her 10-year-old sister Michaela, also called Tia, and a 3-year-old brother Javon. While Moesha plays peekaboo, her father is busy ironing uniforms for school at the Ainon Town Hall age.
I get up from early in the morning and say since I go to school, just make them porridge and start it to wash.
The roles in this family changed hands when Mr. Stewart and his wife of 13 years fell out of grace and she moved to live in Mandeville. It was a similar decision, but for a different reason, why Mrs. Stewart took the then 6-week-old Moesha and Tia to her mother's house in Mandeville back in 2005. Hurricane Ivan had damaged their roof. The newborn became the victim of a terrible and mysterious house fire, which saw the baby rushed to the Mandeville hospital with 3rd-degree burns.
Oh, she burns at the whole her bottom, from her bottom go down. She burned and she just crying and going. And they did have some fun rolling, blowing.
Within a week, the severely burnt baby who had lost a toe in the sizzling heat was transferred to the Bustamante Hospital for Children. In less than a year, the child had endured intense pain and separation to settle into what would become her home, from which a team of pediatric doctors, surgeons and nurses battled to save and reconstruct her feet to this. And what a trooper she is. Even though Moesha walks differently, she is a fun child with an engaging personality.
They've done an excellent job. They couldn't do no better because everybody did think she going to die to the state where she were in. Yes, so the doctor them do an excellent job. They do lots of surgery to put her where she is now. And I guess she have more surgery to do now.
The yearly trips to and from Kingston to comfort Moesha did not faze Mr. Stewart, who, while regretting that such a horrible incident happened to his child, is happy she's still alive.
She in hospital for roughly 4 or 5 years. This is the longest I ever have her.
Getting Moesha home came with strict orders. Keep her safe and get her into a school. So how is Moesha coping in school? Find out as we continue her journey. I'm Clarendon Brown, and together we can inspire Jamaica.
Reach out and touch somebody's hand.
The continuation this evening of the inspiring story about Moesha Stewart, who is recovering after having been badly burnt. The 7-year-old Clarendon girl who has spent the better part of 5 years at the Bustamante Hospital for Children and who has undergone several surgeries is now home with loved ones and going to school. How has she adapted and what have been the reactions of her peers? That's Clarendon Brown's focus in this week's Inspire Jamaica.
Inspire Jamaica is brought to you by Guardian Life, looking after life.
Reach out and touch somebody's hand.
Although branded with lifelong scars from the burns which went through skin, muscles and tendons to her bones, Moesha is happy her feet now touch the ground so she can do girlish-like things like running around without much clothes in her house.
Where is she coming from? Her foot did stay sign.
Unlike most children who entered the education system through early childhood at 3, Moesha has entered an all age at 7.
I love school because my teacher gave me enough sticking to my book, and I love my teacher too.
Most little girls wear socks, she wears leggings. While other girls wear shoes, she wears these boots which are obviously uncomfortable. And if that's not enough, the collar is a standalone, even though this is one child who is not footing her struggles on her own. While Moesha's sister treks off with her brother Javon to Grandma's house, Moesha waits patiently with her cushion as her father makes last-minute checks on her ride to school. Ainon Town All Age is roughly 3 miles away from McCoy, a downhill ride for the passenger one shoe in hand. Unfortunately, there's no room for Tia, who walks the distance. The Stewart sisters arrive at school with their father. Anxiously, Moesha heads to her grade 1 class. Today isn't the first Moesha takes the spotlight. Sadly, it's not always good.
When I see my foot stay so, I feel sad about it. Them is laugh after me because true my foot don't stay like for them.
An initial reaction, Mr. Harrison says, deviates from the school's principles of acceptance of each other.
It is a part of our guidance and counseling program where the guidance counselor meets with the children, encourage them to be tolerant to their fellow classmates. The teachers are encouraged to be tolerant because this is a part of the policy of the Ministry of Education.
In anticipation of the negatives, Moesha gets a head start on forgiveness.
Me telling that is not so she did born.
This doctor-to-be is quite comfortable in her skin.
Yes, Jesus tells me, the Bible tells me so.
Yay! I love Daddy every day. I love he's beating me. I love him said way. Cause sometimes I do bad things, but if I do good things, he will be happy to see.
Moments like this to witness her free-spiritedness, running in shoes that's chafing her flesh, her able-bodied classmates turning the bend long after her. Mr. Stewart wants to straighten corners for his children. He has land but no house of his own and eviction looms. He's a struggling farmer, yet he shares with his neighbors. His wife has moved out, yet he has undying love for their children. With 3 children to care for all by himself, one of whom will need continuous medical care, Robert Stewart is not prepared to sit idly by and wait on hands out, and that's why he has dedicated his life to them all. Is there anything you can do to help? Let's try. I am Clarendon Brown, and together we can inspire Jamaica.
Reach out and touch somebody's hand.